because
maybe we can help you with that.
Yeah.
I mean,
So we'll have all those resources. Can you export all text for proofreading? Yes, you can. Yes. It won't go in the order that you... Blair?
Simple answer is yes, you can. It goes out in a text version. There's also like an XML version, which doesn't sound like that would be helpful.
Like a
but
spreadsheet?
Yeah, of sorts. Yeah. And the goal here as we go along is to be able to do like a whole PDF export of your whole game as a text that you can search through and edit and review and draw links between. We're not quite there yet, but with a little more support, and we hope to be able to do that, no problem. But simple answer is yes, you can.
And I think, the other thing that if you've listened to some of the podcasts, if you go to onemorestorygames.com/media, there's a whole bunch of podcasts and interviews and talks about what our overall vision is. The people that come on in the next 3 to 4 months, 6 months, you guys would be considered the early adopters. So you're at an advantage in that you're learning all the software early before the waves of people come on, and you get your content out there ready ahead of Charlene's content, which that benefits you as well. But it also means that you may encounter, little hiccups here and there. He's the programmer. So, there's little hiccups and things.
Circles,
Yeah. So the early adopters, that's the one thing that it might be a little bit more of a challenge, in that this is not a perfectly polished Microsoft product. Don't forget, Microsoft has been around for a very, very long time. So our product has only been available to the public for probably 6 months now.
Yeah,
and even then, we're very... we've not let it out. We've just been slowly talking to the right people.
We find what tends to happen is, and eventually you get into the system, and it's a little clunky at first when you're first entering the data in, but once you get the basics of your story, your characters, your locations, it gets pretty easy. And our problem is we keep forgetting that those initial steps are a little clunky, and so we're going to do a little more work on that to make it better.
And with the YouTube tutorials, like for example, yesterday I was talking to a writer, and there was something in the YouTube tutorial that wasn't fully explained. So that's on my task list now, is to do a new tutorial to explain a particular element. And the idea being that our job is to make this as clear as possible, so that you can learn each step, and it takes less than 5 minutes to learn a step, and that there's just, once you go through it, you've mastered it. So we have a great question from Rebecca. Would the platform eventually support 360 photos? We were just talking about that last night.
Oh, yes, Rebecca. Just hold on to that as a notion. Yeah, I mean, the goal here, I think, is that while you won't necessarily be required to have any of the new features that we bring out and bring along, the idea is you tell whatever story you want to tell. But I can foresee a point where we will support a whole bunch of 3D technology, and where you could create virtual reality stories. And
yes, virtual reality is actually on the what are you doing there, dear?
I think we've got a oops.
Nope. Don't do that. Just leave it.
Okay.
Just leave it.
All right. We've got some mutes. I think we're getting feedback happening now.
I don't hear anything.
I do.
You do? Well, okay. Well, just keep going.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, there is something that's planned to do that. So, yeah, and the idea here is that it will export out, the player will export out to a Unity system, and then that gets us to wherever we want to go in terms of...
But that's for the more advanced storytellers. That's for people who have the more programming experience.
We're going to do our best to make it as simple as possible for you to create content. I mean, and that's what you're going to find as you get in, even as you incorporate photos into your... there's a little bit to sort of learn about where you put doors and clickable regions and hotspots and all of that stuff. But for what it is you're actually building, and to be able to build a Myst-like game and then have it go everywhere you wanted to and share it with your friends.
Rebecca's already starting to learn Unity.
There we go.
There you go. So, at the heart of what I think I'm particularly excited.
Rebecca's a power user. She had the question about the GPS too. Jeez, Rebecca, you're giving me headaches here.
What I'm excited about is the diversity of voices and making this as accessible as possible to as many people as possible, to start training people to not just write, but to become narrative designers of living, breathing, interactive worlds. That first and foremost. And what's amazing? Like, I'm really looking forward to, I can foresee a time where somebody's going to write to us and say, oh my God, I got a film deal. Or a game studio has picked me up because they saw the 3 stories that I wrote and they loved my narrative style. So
that's awesome.
And we would be happy to put you on the front page at that point. I mean, we just want to be the facilitators for you to create these worlds.
Yeah.
So I would take a couple more questions and then we will wrap up.
So
you're also lovely and quiet.
Well, we've got them all muted, so of course they're quiet.
Is that? But I didn't do that. They all muted themselves.
I think they muted themselves. Yeah.
They did.
All right.
Any more questions? You don't want to see me dance, right?
No,
I don't think we want to. Okay,
other advantages for the writer, maybe, or anything else that you want to...
I think we talked about that before we started recording, but in our original contract, which will be updated very soon, we want to be able to give the content creators that are vetted, tested, and approved by One More Story Games 40% after distribution costs.
So Chris Tehor is...
Please.
Okay, go ahead.
So distribution cost, what does that mean? If games are purchased via our website, onemorestorygames.com, we then have to pay a distribution cost to, right now, PayPal is our service provider. So they take a transaction fee, and then there would be a 40-60 split. And where we take that money is to promote the platform, to develop the content by the New York Times bestselling authors, etc., and maintain the whole thing. Yeah. So that's why we take the 60. And then when we deploy to mobile, phone, Facebook, anything through the Google Play Store, the Apple Store, like all of those other providers, those publishers, they take anywhere from 30, sometimes a little bit more. So they take their cut first, and then you would still receive the 40% after they've taken their cut. All right.
And PayPal will still also have the service fees on that as well.
So StoryStylus itself does have a subscription fee. It is $30 to $120 Canadian per year currently. And as I mentioned...
What's that paying for?
So I was just about to say that. So we're so married. And what that does pay for is for your storage. So the idea being that the more stories you want to create and the more multimedia files that you want to put in there, that data does take up server space, which we would have to pay for. And as a startup, that we're not in a position to do that. So it's 30 to 120 Canadian per year. And on StoryStylus.com, you'll see that, say you had a subscription to the basic level for 1 year, and then you're like, you know what, I'm good. We would leave your content playable for another year on top of that. If you went for the top tier, we would actually leave it playable for, I think, either 3 to 5 years. So you might not have access to the software to create more games.
But it's still there.
But people will still be able to play your games.
How much would users be paying per download? So
users paying per download, I think because of the distribution costs that people would, as a creator, I would lose anywhere from 5 to 30%, that you would want to encourage people to pay at least $2 for your game. So a game might be anywhere from $2 to $20. It depends on like how epic are you making this? Is this a solo project? Are you also doing really amazing art? Like thanks to some of the feedback that we got from our Calgary crew, Kate, one of your friends has some great feedback. Authors wanted to set the price. That's fine. We'll say, here's what we recommend based on the amount of gameplay. For example, there was a game recently called Firewatch, which if you play through quickly, it's about 2 to 3 hours of gameplay, and they charge $20 US on a different platform. That wasn't us. So, and people played that. They were happy with that. Some people were not happy with that. So we'll give you a recommendation of what we think you should charge for your game, and you'll be able to adjust that downwards, not upwards, but downwards, so that if you wanted to, if you said, you know what, it's not selling at $6 and I want to reduce it to $3, you would be able to do that.
We also give you the ability to
Great.
Sorry, actually answer that question
Great
first.
question.
That's a
Who
great
decides
question.
a game is free or pay? Well, if you approach us and say, I want to sell my game, we have to do all of the checking for that. So we would then determine this is a game that people would pay for. What we would recommend, and we're still working on the vetting process, because right now we're like hand selecting authors, but we would recommend that you have at least 5 people play through your game from beginning right through to end. And we have an analytics system. We never talked about this, but we have an analytics system that allows you to track the players each click and each move. And there's going to be an author dashboard that allows you to see the progression of people in your game. So if somebody gets stuck, or 99% of your players are choosing one branching path, you can see that. You'll have product codes that you can give out to people to play test your games.
We know some
to
authors who
market
wanna-
them, put them on bookmarks and add them
And
to your
give them
books.
to writing, give them out for writing events and stuff like that.
You know, so if you're doing a prequel to a novel, you just print print a promo code on a bookmark, and away you go. So anybody can publish to the play wall. It's whether or not the paywall, we want to curate that content. So great spelling, great storytelling, great visuals. If you gave us a great story and the visuals were like this, we might say, hey, you know what? We have an artist. We'd like to put a little bit of money into your story. We may adjust your royalty. We'll agree to that. We may adjust your royalty, and then you would have a story that has art that's up here. Right?
So to answer your question, who decides that a game is free or pay? Really, you do. I mean, do you want to use this as a promotional tool that you give away to promote your books? We have writers who are doing that. If you just want to develop an audience for your particular world before you write a book, we have people who are doing that as well. So it's whatever your strategy is, and we're happy to talk that through with you.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for
Patreon, do you want to
for hanging out. And actually, thanks, Blair. So Shay, really great question. If for some reason it would be great if we just had a backlog of all these great writers who want to have their stuff published. In the meantime, there's also a tip jar. Is that active right now?
That is active right now.
Okay, so there's a tip jar on your story. So even if you're on the play wall and you haven't been officially vetted and approved by One More Story Games, there's a tip jar so people can play their game. And
that goes right to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, minus the distribution cost of whatever they take off.
Yeah.
Right. So I know
Can't get
everybody
around that.
everybody
Can't get
wants
around
their
that.
money.
Yeah.
So I'm going to send out a follow-up email to this talk. It's going to have a link to the YouTube channel. So if you wanted to replay this and re-listen to it, it'll have that link. It will also have the link of the StoryFlow PDF. We'll include the little handout that we give to the elementary school students so that you can see.
We know you're probably better than that, but start with something. At least it's material we have written.
Yes. So session number 2 is actually this Wednesday, and let me just quickly double check the time on that. But it's Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Central Time. So we'll be doing that. And that is more in depth in StoryStylus itself. So if you're wanting to be here and ask questions, then that's great. Or you could also watch the YouTube tutorials. And so we would encourage you to go and play a couple of games if you haven't already.
If you sign up, like you can play our games as a guest account, but if you actually sign up and register, then we can hook you up with a StoryStylus subscription, and that
We'll send you instructions in the email.
Yeah. If you could let us know your username or email, then we'll hook you up with
6 months to say
some
thanks.
free stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
And we're trying to make ourselves very available to help you because You know, more content on the website benefits everybody. It benefits us, it benefits you, and it benefits readers out there who want to enjoy really great storytellers. So,
and we love the challenge, actually, of every writer comes with their own background and
yeah,
ideas and problems, and we just love, bringing that to life. That's so much fun for us.
yeah. So I'm going to stop the recording, and if anybody wants to hang out and ask more questions, they're welcome. I'm probably going to kick Blair out of the room. Bye-bye. Oh, wait, no, I have to go. We have to go.
We have to go. That's
We
right.
have to go. All right. Well, next time then. Thank you very much.
Forward any questions you have, and just if you get stuck or anything like that, please let us know. But
we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. I'll send that all in the follow-up email, and you'll get that later this evening. And thanks again. We hope that you'll come and create with us.
all right, guys.
All right, bye.
See ya.